Sketchy Go Ichie.
Hey everybody, welcome back. The Sketchy Skull Challenge. This is wave 2. Actually, this is wave 3, but I kicked it up a notch because I wanted to share that Darth Maul one. Here's a collection of different sketchy skulls. For those who are uninitiated, didn't see wave 1. Really, all I've done is a simple little template, little skull shape, and I've been just rendering these little sort of freestyle images right on top of the shape. I'm doing it in Procreate and using my iPad. And so what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to share with everyone, is, the creativity it takes to just kind of take a basic shape or basic template, in this case, the skull shape, and just, use your imagination and to come up with different stories, basically visual stories that you can tell using that shape as a starting point. And that's the whole point of doing this. I just used the word point twice, sorry. That's the whole intent of doing this, is for me to have some fun, just, for lack of a better way to describe it, which is another one of my, I think that should be a drinking game every time I say lack of a better way to describe something. For a lack of a better way to define what I'm trying to do here, it's all about showing your individuality through your perception of how to tackle a art challenge. So that's a lot of words just to say that I want you to be able to have a starting point, to be able to spark your creativity, to be able to see what you do, and to share what I do with the same parameters, being that skull template shape. And by the way, if you want one of those skulls, I've got a PNG of it, transparent, so you can just bring it into Photoshop, you can bring it into Procreate, as I've done here, and just add layers on top and just start drawing. And that's really what I did with this sort of Mars Attacks version of this sort of alien skull. This one's probably the most layers out of any of the ones I've done so far, but it's one of the most fun, the ones I'm most proudest of, even though, and yes, it may not seem that way, but these are all very simple, quick illustrations. None of these took any more than perhaps an hour to do, which is actually, believe it or not, an hour is a very long time for me to do an illustration. It sounds crazy, and I'm not saying that to brag. Trust me. I probably should spend more time on these illustrations in reality. But anyways, so point again is to just A, share these, B, see what you've done. And so that's what I really do want to encourage, is anyone seeing this sort of time lapse of me kind of doing my versions, my take on these skull shapes, please do take me up on that. Grab a hold of the template and do yours and share them with me. Just hashtag it Sketchy Skull and post them on Facebook or Instagram, and please at me so I can see what you're doing, because I'm so impressed with the ones I've seen so far from some of my artist friends. So anyways, like this one here, it was under the suggestion of my buddy Dana. He suggested like inverting the skull shape. So I did just that. I just kind of flipped it upside down and did this sort of fish tank treatment. As a matter of fact, I think even the fish tank was his idea as well, to just kind of mix it up, change the parameters, change the game. I think it's a big part of the process of creating, is trying to see a different angle or a different take on something that is common. And not that a skull shape is necessarily common. It is probably in culture to see a skull and it represent something negative, as I expressed in the wave 1 video. But to invert expectation is a big part of being creative, and it's a big part of being different and being unique and finding your own creative voice, is to see what others see and would do, and to take that and spin it upside down, in that case on his head, and then you can go back to something a little more common and generic. Like, for some reason I chose to fill this particular skull, this sort of devil horn, red devil, classic little red devil shape, tail with the little a little triangular little barb at the end. It just was a way to just kind of like, oh, this was almost like a palette cleanser. It was so simple to render. It was really, as you can see, it's like essentially a color fill. I think I rendered that, you know, that tail thing that kind of overlaps over the front of the lower part of the skull in like 1 or 2 strokes. Created the little end of the tail, and threw a highlight and some shadows, and like was just done. Like I don't know. I think for this one, I just wanted to kind of just do something simple and different and almost straightforward. And then I had that little, I don't know if you've noticed that I have this sort of that sort of scratchy little background and behind it. And if you notice, like it's there in some of the other designs. It's just a layer, and I just retain that layer. And then I use it for other designs down the road. You'll see as I keep doing these. For this one here, this is again just trying to be creative. The inspiration for this one was like just sort of like kind of some of this sort of kid robot, dunny sort of. I don't even know what to call that. That it was urban vinyl several years ago. I don't even know what that movement of sort of cool graphic sort of perhaps graffiti influenced characters that were turned into figurines and collectible figurines, and I think that's what this is inspired by. And then in every case, it seems like when I throw this really hard, harsh outline around the art, it kind of makes sort of a sticker feel to it. And I think maybe down the road, some of these might make for some cool stickers. And that would be great to see if you guys take that on. Maybe create some of your own and make stickers out of it. It'd be really fun. I don't mind. This one is clearly, we have, I do a ton of licensing art. So, so I'm kind of doing a familiar character in the licensing world. I almost don't want to say it, like, the fear of Disney and how litigious they are has got me spooked. But but I mentioned it just now, so I guess I'm tempting fate. So do not send me a cease and desist. These are only for fun. I do not plan on really making stickers out of these. Anyways, here's one I really dug as well. This was me sort of, as I mentioned again in the previous Wave 1 video, playing around with doing these images as just shapes without using line art as a to bind everything, to kind of hold all the shapes. And so it's me just kind of drawing silhouettes like I am doing of the sort of like samurai helmet thing with the sort of the extra features, like that weird sort of mustache thing, the little sort of flare piece that comes up off the center and goes off to the upper left hand corner, the little piece that sort of bends back from the inner part of the helmet out to the that golden piece along the center of the piece. And as you can see here, I rendered one side and then duplicated it. And that's the, I don't know why it took me this long to mention it, but because this is a straight on view of that skull template, there's wonderful opportunities to kind of do these symmetry pieces where you render one side of it and render it as complete as possible, especially if the details aren't going to change much on the other side, and then make a duplicate layer. And in Procreate, very easy, Photoshop, very easy, any rendering app, to create a duplicate layer and then invert that image or flop it, excuse me, and then combine the two pieces, combine the two halves, just shift it over, make sure it's aligned perfectly, and connect it, and then sort of maybe do a little touch up on where it connects in the center, because it's almost always never perfect. I like that, almost always never perfect. And so again, did this really hard outline, and it to me has the appearance of something that could be a sticker. It really does. I would buy it. And again, that sounds, I hate saying stuff like that, it sounds so pretentious, but sometimes you do things that you're more proud of, and if you're an artist, it's okay to, you don't have to suffer, and feel like a failure to achieve good art. Sometimes you hit something that you really are proud of, and so why not have confidence in it? I think it's a fallacy for people to really feel like they have to, like their art has to really be bad and has to stink and I suck at this and I suck at that. And no, if it, I guess if it prevents your growth, yeah, you don't want to be that way. And it stunts your creativity because you think you're so wonderful that you can't get better. Yes, of course you want to have humility and be humble, but sometimes you do stuff that you're proud of. And I'm actually fairly proud of this one, this tiger one. To be honest with you, this was a pure like imagination play. Like I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it when I started. I was going to do some sort of cat-like creature, and then it kind of turned into this tiger, and I really ultimately wound up liking it. And you can see here, I actually at some point created like layers of and saved layers of the template itself. I did a little template fill color within the shape of the skull, and then I did a drop shadow and then a scratchy background. I've been kind of using them over and over and over again. Speaking of scratchy skull, it's like you can see I'm trying to do the Star Wars Darth Maul episode 1, right? Star Wars Phantom Menace. You know, obviously the most indelible character of, I think that sort of that trilogy, that sort of secondary, aka prequel trilogy, was, in my opinion, Darth Maul. He's, you know, perhaps the most, you know, iconic, you know, character to emerge from that. And you know, it's funny here. I toyed with whether I want to do the eyes in or not, because I thought it had more mystery without his eyes. But then again, I kind of liked the sort of cartooniness that happened when I put his eyes in there. It really softened up the skull. And I'm noticing that over and over and over again as I do these. It's like, yes, it's a skull shape. Yes, it's supposed to be kind of mean and scary. But you know, once I fill eyes into those sockets, it really gets sort of lighter and more cartoony. And here, I'm just playing around with texture brushes. That's another thing that I've noticed in doing these, because I want to do a variety of different styles and different textures and different subject matters. Playing around with brushes has been an extra fun part of this. And I've noticed that with some of my artist friends who've been doing these. They all have their own unique take on it and their own unique style. And so it's inspiring me when I see theirs, particularly the artist friends who have a more painterly approach to their art. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to capture this sort of like weird sort of canvas of brush strokes and splatter, and I'm playing around with the outline. Does it need it? Does it not need it? And again, it's all part of the exploration process. It's what I was trying to say inartfully at the very beginning of this particular video is process really doesn't matter as long as you're being creative. And essentially that's, you know, the notion that I'm going for when I'm doing these. A, it's just I'm having fun doing them, but B, I want to share with everyone, you know, that you too can do different approaches. Just give yourself a starting point. It doesn't have to be a skull template. It could be anything, and then just freestyle and do a bunch of other things. And most of all, of course, you know, have fun, as I have here. So signing off. Here we go again. Sketchy Skull Challenge. Hashtag Sketchy Skull and sketchygoichie. Live your moment. Happy sketching, y'all. Peace.